Battlefield 6. I was really hoping this game was going to be good. I was excited when it came out. I started off by playing it quite a bit. I was really hoping I was going to enjoy this game. I've been playing Battlefield since Bad Company 2. I've played Battlefield 3, 4, Battlefield Hardline even, Battlefield Play for Free, y'all probably don't even know what that is, Battlefield 1, and Battlefield 2042. So I'm a fan of this franchise, and I really like these games. But this game is really in a weird place. And with 2042 having been such an abysmal disaster, I really was hoping that this game was going to come out and just be as good as it seemed like it was going to be with the beta. But oh my god, we have some problems. And I feel like if we want this game to improve, I got to be willing to express my opinion, and everybody else has got to express their opinion. And hopefully, if we all do that, then EA will see all of that and maybe implement some changes that make this game feel good. The first thing that this game is doing horribly wrong is the maps. They're way too small. I think we all know this. If you look back at Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 in particular, but even Battlefield 1, maps are pretty big there too. What this led to was space. The two teams would fight. There would normally be a general area of the map where the fighting is the most intense and the most people are. Then you would have areas on the outside. These areas were going to be less player dense, and there was going to be room for you to move around. This is where flanking comes in, and this is where the plays are made on who's going to win or lose the match. You would be watching the map as you spawn in, and you would be looking for your opportunity to try to make a play. And if you saw that the enemy team was not paying attention to a certain part of the map, you would utilize that and try to take space there and then either pull a flank off and take out a bunch of people, which you've probably all seen clips of people doing that, or you would at least get yourself into an advantageous position so that your squad could spawn on you and you could potentially try to take an objective or stop an attacking team from pushing, because now you're to their left or to their right or behind them or in some position where they have to divert their attention away from the initial push and start focusing on where they're getting shot from that they didn't predict. This is what won games. In this game, in Battlefield 6, it doesn't feel like that is a thing at all. There's too many players in a small area, so no matter what you try to do, you can almost be guaranteed that there's going to be a player around every corner and a player watching just about every angle that you can even think about trying to make a play on. On top of this, even if you manage to pull off a flank or pull off a play on an objective, more than likely you're going to get bombarded by enemies because they're all close enough to be able to respond to that almost immediately. Further still, even if you manage to kill a bunch of them, the spawn that they're going to spawn at, worst case scenario for them, is still very close to the objectives. So it does not take them a long time to respawn and get right back to where they were. Then you have to do it all over again. And it leads to a play style where most people in this game pretty much pick a spot, sit there, and peek in and out of cover and just shoot at everything that moves. And the only time anybody ever actually makes a play is when you don't have a choice, and then the attacking team just starts throwing their lives away in hopes of trying to take an objective, because otherwise the match is going to be over. We might as well do it. It makes attacking feel awful, and it makes defending feel pretty boring at times, and then also frustrating as hell because you can't really do anything and you feel like you pretty much just got to sit here. It punishes people who try to move. So we have this chaotic map design that leads to a very campy, grenade spam heavy, mortar spam heavy, just miserable playstyle on almost every single map in the game. I can't think of very many that break this cycle. This is a big problem, and it makes the game feel like it's not really playable for longer than a few minutes because there's so much going on the entire time you're playing. Most matches feel the same. You pretty much spawn in and just are getting shot at, and it's pinned down simulator the entire time. You can't really do anything but just sit there and shoot at people, so you can't really have fun or really do anything too interesting because you just are forced to not move. Now, I'm the type of player that prefers to make plays, and you can see in the background gameplay that a lot of times I just break the rules and do it anyways, and it costs me my life a lot because you'll go in and you'll start fighting one guy, you'll take him out, fight another guy, take him out, and then you get shot from another direction you couldn't have possibly have predicted. Now, with the new maps that they put out, the outdoors one is okay. I don't hate it, and I would put it kind of high up there on the list of maps in the game so far. The other one is underground, and it is more chaotic than any other map in the game. From what I can tell, it's a nightmare, dude. It is just straight choke points everywhere. Grenade spam, claymore spam. It's fun maybe once or twice if I want to like play that style of gameplay, but considering the rest of the game is already chaotic and somewhat annoying, that map isn't helping. In the older Battlefield games, you had Operation Metro and you had Operation Locker, right? Both of these maps are considered to be by the community very good maps that we all adore because they were fun to play. The reason those maps were so successful, or at least a big part of it, is because those maps were in stark contrast to everything else in the game. Metro was a map that felt like a completely different experience than every other map in Battlefield 3. So when you were playing Metro, it's because you wanted to break from the larger scale Battlefield combat and you wanted to kind of go into some close quarters, chaotic, choke pointy action. It made it really fun. But the rest of the game gave you the other experience that you were also looking for, so there was variety, right? Same thing in Battlefield 4. Locker was very choke pointy, it was very chaotic, and it was a totally different playstyle than the rest of the Battlefield 4 maps. In Battlefield 6, it feels like the dev team looked at Metro and Locker and said, people really like these maps, so why don't we just make a game where every map is like that? Sounds good on paper maybe, but in practice it leads to a game that is super chaotic and annoying to play and not that fun, honestly. Now all of that right there is one of the large issues that the game is having, and it could be fixed by giving us some bigger maps. If you created some bigger maps, put them in the game, and gave us some variety, then at least it would feel like it's not all that all the time. I also think they could reduce the player count on these smaller maps. It's a controversial thought, I know, but I think it would help. The reason I say that is because I look at Bad Company 2 from back in the day. The player count on Bad Company 2 was way smaller. And at least in the console lobbies that I was playing in back then, it was 12v12. And the maps were relatively small for Battlefield, but because the player count was lower, it gave you the ability to have that tactical feel. It's my favorite Battlefield game because it was a little bit smaller, so there wasn't as much of a walking simulator as some of the other games, but it also still had all the Battlefield action, and the player count was small enough to where those smaller maps didn't feel too chaotic and frustrating. I think that's a big part of the reason why that game is loved the way that it is. Ironically enough, in Battlefield 6, the game modes that tend to feel the best are the game modes where the player count is not as large. Unfortunately, if you're playing Domination in Battlefield 6, you might as well be playing COD because it's the same thing. In Battlefield 6, we also have a vehicle problem. They feel like an afterthought. Tanks are somehow really strong, but also useless at the same time. And that's due to the fact that there's just so many players that if a tank becomes the center of attention, it's not going to last a very long time. So a lot of these tanks and light armored vehicles and all the ground vehicles tend to kind of migrate backwards and stay back because they don't want to risk getting blown up. So they don't really end up helping their team push as much as they just try to shell people from a distance and be annoying. Aircraft in this game, I don't even know why it's here because the maps are way too small for them. You can fly a helicopter around and maybe get some kills, but you're not really going to do too much. If you use a helicopter as a way to transport players behind enemy lines, kind of leads to the same problem I was talking about with flanking, where you'll drop players off, but it doesn't really matter because there's so many enemies so close to each other that those players that you drop behind enemy lines aren't going to really be able to do too much. Also, with helicopters, you can shoot them down with regular guns. So they're kind of weak because if the enemy team on the ground gets annoyed with you, you're not going to last long in the air. It's just not going to happen. So you take all of that and you have a game that doesn't feel like Battlefield and can be really frustrating to play at times. I find that this game is okay in short play sessions, but if I try to go for longer than that, I start getting burnt out, I start getting annoyed, I start not having fun, and I also sometimes don't want to be shot at the entire match. I would like a chance to actually figure out what the hell I want to do instead of just instantly getting shot every time I spawn in. The matchmaking in this game is not great. I can't tell you how many times I spawn into a team that is already halfway through a match that they are not winning and have no chance of winning. There's too many players in a Battlefield game, especially in this game, to be able to carry your team. So I pretty much just have to expect that I'm going to lose and accept that fact and deal with it, or leave the match and try again. On the flip side of that, there's also matches where it feels like my team's going to win and nothing I do matters, and I can't even find enemies because they're not staying alive for very long at all, and if we're defending, they're stuck in their attacker base and we're just waiting for the tickets to run out, and if we're attacking, we're just blowing through their bases and they don't stand a chance, and it ends really fast. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if it's just a really bad team balancing system or if they're actively manipulating your games like they do in other titles, but it feels gross and I don't like it. And one of the things about Battlefield is that it's supposed to be completely random matchmaking with a little bit of team balancing thrown in. This doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's predetermined who's going to win the match and you just have to ride with it. I don't like that at all. So we have bad team balancing, a weird matchmaking system, and no persistent servers either. You can't stay in the same lobby. If you get into a lobby and you like the team that you're on, or you like the way the match played out and you enjoyed it and had fun and it felt like it was somewhat balanced, which can happen, you can't stay there. It's going to boot you out and it's going to make you sit through another entire fill up the lobby process or throw you into another match that may or may not be in the middle of it. And this is super annoying. And I don't know why games nowadays feel the need to do this. Let me stay in the match that I was in. Let me stay with these people. We were having a good time. Why do you got to split us all up? So this whole thing is a mess. There's a lot of other things I could complain about. I'm not here to complain. I'm just here to express my opinion and try to give at least my side of things and explain what I think. I'm sure everybody has their own thoughts. Drop some comments down below. Let me know what you guys are thinking about this game. What do you think they should do differently? How do you feel right now? I'll keep coming back to this game. I want to see it succeed. 2042 launched in a really, really bad state, and by the end of it, it ended up being okay, at least. So there's a little bit of hope. I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. I do really appreciate it, and I will catch y'all later. Peace, guys.
Oh, that's funny as fuck.